In a recent video that I did, I talked about the issues that I've been having with my soldering. And as a result of that, I got a lot of helpful comments and suggestions in relation to what I could do better. So having considered all that, I'm going to try and put a few of those ideas into practice and see if things improve. Now, I'm currently working on building a new Spectrum, so I thought I'll give my new techniques a try and see how it works, putting some more components in this specchy. Fingers crossed, things will go well. Firstly, a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, PCB Way. Hey, big shout out and thank you to PCB Way for sponsoring this video on my channel. PCB Way, they make PCBs from as little as $5 with super fast shipping. Here is one that I got off their project pages. It's a recreation of the issue 3B ZX Spectrum board. So if you fancy getting yourself one of these, get yourself on the PCB Way projects pages. But not only do they do PCBs, they also do 3D printing. This is a little case they made up for me for my little Retrolium diagnostic cart. And as well as 3D printing, they do CNC machining. So whatever your project needs, do check out PCB Way. If you need some inspiration, check out their project pages. It's crammed full of them. But thank you again to PCB Way for sponsoring this video. Link in the description. So here's my soldering station, which I was moaning that I was having a few issues with. And I've made a couple of changes. The first thing is I've decided to run the iron a bit hotter. The idea being to get more heat into the joints quicker. So I'll see how that works out for me. And the other thing that I've done is I was complaining about the looseness of the tip, and I won't touch it because it's on at the moment. I don't want to burn myself again. Using non-original Yahoo tips, they seemed quite loose on the heating element. And even the proper ones I found still had a little bit of play in them. So there were a couple of comments where people had suggested using shims between the tip and the heating element. And so what I've done it off camera. It's pretty straightforward. I've just cut up a bit of an aluminium drinks can and I've inserted a section of that between the tip and the element, and that makes the fit quite snug. I'm not sure whether I'm a big fan of that, because one thing that I've found is it really doesn't want the tip to come off unless it's hot. So when it cools down, everything contracts. And my concern is with that, trying to swap the tips over, I'm increasing the risk of causing damage to the element. So I'm not sure I'm sold on that at the moment, but I'm going to give it a go for now and see how it works. The other thing is, and I had a feeling this would be a problem. This is the cheap solder that I buy and use. The only reason I buy it is because it's cheap. And I think that might be the cause of some of my problems. And so does a lot of the comments that I've received in relation to the issues that I've been having. So as a result of that, I've got some of this. I've got 5 meters of it, just because it's relatively expensive. But this is Ursin Multicore. I think I've pronounced it correctly, and I think it comes in a few flavors. I can't remember its exact title, but I'll put the eBay listing up as I witter on. So I'm going to give that a try. This will be the first time using decent branded solder. So I'm hoping that's going to make a huge difference. Whether it will or not, I don't know. So I'm going to put everything to the test, finishing off, well, not necessarily finishing off, but more or less completing this Spectrum build. I've got a huge box of resistors here, which took a while to come. But I'm hoping I've got all the values that I had now that were missing. I've got some 16 picofarad capacitors, which were very hard to come by. John bailed me out with this. I just simply couldn't get hold of these for love nor money. It wasn't something I was expecting to be hard to find, but there you go. Thank you, John, very much for that. That is awesome. I'll also have a go fitting. I've got two different types of transistor to fit. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. I'll have to get my glasses. And I've got some more capacitors to fit. So that should pretty much finish off the build, more or less. Although I am missing one last thing. Here we go. These are a couple of voltage regulators. I only need one for the build. But once again, John bailed me out and very kindly sent me two of these. So that's absolutely awesome. We'll have a go at fitting those as well. Now, before I get started fitting the new stuff, let me tell you some of the things that I'm not too happy about with what I've done so far. You can perhaps see on here, and I'll zoom in for you if I can. We've got a row of resistors there, and on some of them, the solder has pulled through nicely and pulled both sides of the joint. And then on others, you can see the nice shiny part of the board there where the solder hasn't pulled through. Now, my understanding is it's a good idea to have the solder pull all the way through, and I'm not seeing it on a lot of mine. And I don't know whether that's more to do with the solder or whether that's because I'm just not keeping the iron on for long enough, which, well, we'll see. I'm gonna see what I can do about that. On the other side of the board then, you can see that a lot of the solder is very dark grey, and I suspect that's because solder's cheap. And more to the point, a lot of my work is quite blobby. But then as I've moved on and started practicing more of my techniques, i.e. hotter for a fraction longer and less solder, they're much better. So I'm going to be concentrating on the amount of solder I put on, because if you put too much on, not only does it look a bit of a mess, but I think it increases the chances of getting a short as well, because there's more solder there to potentially cause a problem. So I'm going to be very careful, or as careful as I can, in the amount of solder that I'm putting onto a joint as well, so that hopefully all these big blobby ones are a thing of the past, but we shall see. Right, here goes nothing. I've got TR4 lined up here, ready to go in. I've got my new solder, and I'm going to try not using any flux. See how that works. I don't know if you can see, but there's a load of flux that's come off the solder without me even needing to apply any extra. And spinning round, seeing the other side of the board, let me just adjust it for you. So TR4 is this one down here. And I can see, as I jiggle it about, and hopefully you can too, that the solder has flowed through lovely. So there's only one conclusion I can make to that, and that is I need to stop using cheap solder, because this seems to be the business. But can't necessarily go on just one, so let's do some more stuff and see how we get on. Same again then. This is TR8 and TR9. Once again, I won't add any flux. Let's see how this works. A bit difficult to see with the reflection though. Sure I've got enough. Let's come in and do this one. Right. Let's flip it over, see how that looks. Oh, look at that. You see? It's flowed through perfectly. And back on this side. Yeah, that's worked absolutely fantastic. I'm so pleased with that. Let's get rid of these legs. It's always slightly more tricky for me doing it filming because I haven't found that perfect position for the camera to give you a good view and not get in the way for me seeing what I'm doing. So it's always a little bit of a compromise. But I am really pleased with that. It looks nice and shiny too. All this time I've been using cheap solder. Would you believe it? Right, let's get some more in. This is exciting now. I'm really happy with how that's looking. I'll fit the rest of them off camera, and then let's pop the module in anyway. So that's all sockets installed for the lower RAM. And once again, I'm really, really pleased with how this solder's performing. Not one blobby joint, and it's all nice and shiny. I wish I'd had some decent solder when I started this. Made such a difference. Such a difference. Let's see if this module fits in anyway. Let's plug it in. Now this module should just go from the inner of, so you just leave the outers alone. Let's just double check what I'm doing there. Bit of a firm press, and I think we are in. Looks good. Well, I've given the board the briefest of cleans, but look at the other solder sparkling away, and this grey rubbish of what I'd done previously. Ah dear, I wish I'd known before, but never mind. But that is literally like night and day. My previous soldering wasn't great, blobby in places, dull, and generally just not that great, with loads of flux everywhere, and just generally could do better, I think would be the mark on any assessment of that. Could do better, Simon. So did sticking the shim in make a difference? I think it did. What I found was, as the iron was making contact, the heat transfer was really good, even on the stuff where I was soldering to, like there, to the ground plane. No issues whatsoever with the heat transfer. You could see it start to drop off briefly, and then it just kicked in and it was away. So I think that shim has helped. The solder though, my God, I'm never buying this cheap Chinese stuff anymore. If you've got some, then take my advice, take what the internet's full of, just don't use it, get some decent stuff. It's going to make such a difference to what you're doing. I've even used less water on my sponge rather than having it absolutely soaking. It's just nicely damp. That was another tip. Stops it sucking the heat away. I'm going to wrap the video up here. A thank you to Brandon Leitner for being a member. There are links in the description if you would like to become a member too and support me financially. That would be awesome. Likewise, if you did like this, please do remember to give me a thumbs up. It makes all the difference. And if you'd like to see more, then do consider giving me a subscribe. This Spectrum now is nearly built. I'm hoping it will be finished in the next video. There's virtually nothing I've got left to do on this other than set the jumpers for the upper RAM and the ROM, and install a modulator. So that should be all pretty done soon as possible. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed watching and you got something useful out of it. And hopefully I will see you again soon and we'll have this Spectrum finished. Wishing you all the best and bye for now.